You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast. This is the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me at official Sam Little on Instagram. There's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, welcome to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North, but you already know that. So, I'm going to be doing a news roundup now, and this is just all from this past week, and my goal here is for you to go, wow, that happened this week? Yeah, it did. The world of football moves very quickly, and it is astounding. I was keeping notes all week, and it is crazy to see how some of this stuff was this week. It feels like it was genuinely a lifetime ago. So, here we go. Managerial sackings. Mauricio Pochettino is done at Chelsea, which was probably some of the biggest news this week, given that he, in some people's eyes, may have had a good season, given the fact that he was able to drag Chelsea to a Europa League spot, which has now turned into a Europa Conference League spot due to Manchester United winning the FA Cup. I don't know, guys. Football can be strange sometimes. But yeah, so Poch got them into Europe regardless, and he got sacked. I think it is the right choice. It's just strange timing, in my opinion, because you had so many opportunities to sack him if this is what you wanted to do. The ownership, that is. Why did we do it after he's clinched Europe and they've kind of started to turn a corner? Maybe. Who knows? They may have come out next season and looked like terrible again. But when they had so many opportunities, like look at the Liverpool team that they lost to in the Carabao Cup final. Then a few weeks before that, they lose at Anfield 4-1 to Liverpool without any real fight. And then you have the 5-0 against Arsenal, 2-2 against 10-man Burnley at Stamford Bridge, 2-2 against Sheffield United, one of the worst teams to ever grace the Premier League. And it just doesn't make sense to me. You could have sacked him at those times, but instead you sack him after he gets you Europe, which was the goal. I don't quite understand it. I don't per se disagree with the sacking. The timing of it, I scratch my head because he did what the goal was to do. But that being said, if you look at Chelsea's season, all season, I don't think they had a great season. They looked lost most of the time. No tactics, no real style of play, no proper system. Injuries, of course, hindered that. There was big losses with Reece James, Chilwell, Badiashile was in and out, Colwell was in and out, and Nkunku was stop-start. Romeo Lavia missed all but 30 minutes of the season. Mudryk missed a few games here and there, and Robert Sanchez, the list goes on. The injuries did not help, but with that being said, he is getting paid to get results. In a sense, he did get the results, but in a sense, he also didn't. So I think it is kind of interesting. I wonder what a lot of people think. The fan base, at least on Twitter, seems pretty divided. Some people don't understand why he's been sacked, and other people do. I think it's one of those things of where, you're either going to agree or you're going to disagree. But with a manager outgoing comes a manager coming in, and there have been names linked to the job, and I don't know, none of them look super impressive. You got Roberto De Zerbi, who, in my opinion, is a little bit overrated. He wasn't really picking out great results with Brighton towards the end of the season. You have Kieran McKenna. You have Xavi is even linked now, but I don't know how much of that is just Twitter speak and what of that is real. I'm not going to really go deep into what different manager they could get. I don't see much of a point in trying to overanalyze a manager that hasn't been announced yet. Once a manager is announced, I'll probably give my thoughts on it. But until then, I'm just kind of going to wait it out. There's no point in getting all mad about a manager that has not been confirmed yet. But speaking of Xavi, he was sacked by Barcelona earlier this week. And once again, a very head-scratching decision because earlier in the season, it was confirmed that he was going to be leaving Barcelona at the end of the season. Okay, fair enough. That happens. All right. But Barcelona kept courting him into trying to stay with them. Time goes on, as these do. Contract finally gets sorted out, and it's confirmed 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago maybe, he's going to be staying. Okay, Barcelona's managerial problem is fixed. They have Xavi for another few seasons. Contracts are signed, and then they sack him. Yeah, they sack him after an entire season of courting him to re-sign. They sack him. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. But now the rumor is that they're going to bring in Hansi Flick, who won a treble with Bayern back in 2020, has since coached the German national team. I think he's a very good manager. It just doesn't make much sense to me. It really doesn't. I really don't understand. Some of these clubs just kind of, I think, make it up as they go sometimes. But yeah, just an entire season of courting a guy, finally re-signs, and then you sack him. Because apparently he was criticizing the Barcelona higher-ups, and that they weren't taking too kindly to that. So he got the boot. Too bad. I think he was doing pretty decent with Barcelona. I mean, he did win a league title with them, so obviously he was doing pretty good. I mean, he has a very young squad, but there's a young squad with a lot of potential there. So it'll be interesting to see if Hansi Flick is the man to take charge. It'll be interesting to see what he does. And now an unconfirmed managerial sacking, but one that is definitely making waves, is Erik ten Hag. Nothing has been confirmed just yet, but the rumors broke on Friday, the day before the FA Cup final, that Manchester United would be sacking Erik ten Hag regardless of if they won or lost the final. Now that they have won, I will be interested to see if he does get the sack. But the club never confirmed this. There's been no confirmation from a Fabrizio Romano, who is a pretty reliable source. So I'm not saying it's not true, but you'll just kind of have to wait and see type of thing. I'm kind of curious as to who they would get if they were to sack Ten Hag, because I do think he has underachieved with this Manchester United team. A lot of cash has been splashed for them, and they got a lot of the guys that he wanted. He fought tooth and nail for Anthony, and Anthony has been, to put it politely, not good. And he fought tooth and nail to get him. I think he's mistreated Harry Maguire. I think he's not played to the strengths of certain players like Højlund. He doesn't let Højlund actually be a striker. Højlund doesn't get service. I don't know if that's down to coaching or if that's down to players. But regardless, it's always going to come down to, well, why isn't the team using these guys properly? And in the end, that does fall upon the feet of the manager. So he'll be just another manager after Fergie that came in with all this promise that has yet to live up to it, which is a bit of a shame. But, I mean, if you're a Manchester United fan, it's a shame. So I'll be interested to see what they do and who they go out and get if he does get the boot. But in some positive managerial news, Liverpool have found their guy. I mean, it was probably the worst kept secret in all of the footballing world. Arne Slot will be the manager of Liverpool next season. Klopp confirmed it at his farewell ceremony after the Liverpool's last game at Anfield, and then the club properly confirmed it, I think a day or two later. So he will be the next manager. Is coming from Feyenoord in the Eredivisie, and I honestly don't know a whole ton about him. I just know that usually managers from the Eredivisie coming to the Premier League don't typically work out. I mean, see our last news story with Erik ten Hag. But who knows? Maybe this guy will be able to take over and change things up. I think Liverpool has looked tired for a little bit, and it will be interesting to see what Arne Slot can bring to the table with the first post-Klopp season. And another managerial confirmation is Julian Lopetegui will be managing West Ham. Formerly, he has managed Spain, Sevilla, and Real Madrid, so his CV is pretty good. He'll be coming in for David Moyes, who has been relieved of his duties at West Ham. So once again, it will be interesting to see what Lopetegui can bring to the table. He's obviously a very successful manager, won the Europa League, I believe, with Sevilla back in 2019 or 2020. And yeah, he's a very good manager. And with West Ham not having European football, I'm intrigued as to see what the expectation is. Will it be to get them back into Europe? Will it be to win maybe a domestic cup competition? Will it be to push for Europa League spots, Champions League spots? Who knows? I'm very curious as to see where that could go. And now we're going to switch into some big games that happened over the last week. Bayer Leverkusen finally lost a game. Who would have thought that Bayer Leverkusen losing a game would be such a big news story? But it is. After a 51-game undefeated run, it comes to an end in the Europa League final against Atalanta. And this is the longest undefeated streak in European competition ever. So definitely not something to be upset about. I think it is upsetting that you didn't win the Europa League final, but I mean, hey, Atalanta are a very, very good team, and they've been pushing for greatness for a little bit now and have upset a few teams even in this run alone. They knocked out Liverpool, they knocked out Sporting Lisbon, and now they've beaten Bayer Leverkusen in the final. And I do think that is down to just some amazing managerial tactics and some just phenomenal standout players. Like, I mean, Ademola Lookman scoring a hat-trick in a European final is absurd. And if you haven't seen those goals, go check them out. They are, each and every one of them is a beauty. And just kudos to Atalanta for winning that final. It is about time they did get their crowning moment. It's their second trophy in their history. So I'm very excited to see how they can build on that. They'll be in Champions League next season. And yeah, I think it's really exciting to see a new team come up and, well, obviously not new, but a different team come up and win a big competition. And it's, as much as it sucks to see Bayer Leverkusen not go and get an undefeated treble, which would have been absurd, it is still really cool to see a team such as Atalanta win a big one. And looking at the EFL Cup playoffs, Southampton did beat Leeds today 1-0 with a goal via Adam Armstrong, who sends Southampton back to the Premier League on the first time of asking. And anytime you get promoted, it's obviously a huge achievement. But I do think after losing their best player over the summer, their captain, James Ward-Prowse, it is great to see West Ham bounce back immediately. They are always a pretty fun club to watch in the Premier League, usually a mid-level club, so it'll be good to see them back. Hopefully they can retain a Premier League spot next season and stay there for seasons to come. And they will be joining Leicester and Ipswich, which is very exciting. Ipswich haven't been in the Premier League in a very long time, so it'll be cool to see them back in the Prem. And, of course, Leicester, I don't think anybody's really surprised that they bounced back up. They retained most of their players over the transfer windows. The really only big losses were Yuri Tielemans and James Maddison. Other than that, they basically had the same team that they had in the Premier League. So it's not really surprising that they come back up, but obviously it's still good that they did come back up for those supporters and for those players. And as I did mention earlier, Manchester United did win the FA Cup. They beat their city rivals, Manchester City, yesterday 2-1. Kobe Mainoo and Garnacho getting the decisive goals for them. The two youngsters kind of enjoyed what was a bit of a breakout season for both of them. And it's always good to see young players kind of stepping up in these big moments. And Manchester City will, I think, feel like they probably should have won that game, given that they are the better team, in my opinion. But Manchester United secured the win. They secured Europa League football for next season. And Manchester City, I guess, will just have to console themselves with a Premier League title. But yeah, I mean, not really a whole ton to say about the game. It's nice for Manchester United fans that they have something to take away from what was, I would say, an underwhelming season for them. But yeah, I think City should have probably done better, but that's football, right? And for the final story, I wanted to change it up a little bit. Tony Kroos announced his retirement from football earlier this week, and I just wanted to quickly say how good and underrated of a player he truly was. He will be retiring after the Euros with Germany this summer, so he could maybe have the fairy tale end and win the Euros, or he could just, I don't know, go out in the round of 16. But regardless, what a career he has had. I mean, a World Cup, 5 Champions Leagues, league titles. Just, he literally won everything that you could possibly want to win. And he's a player that I don't think ever truly got his due, just because he's not the most flashy of player. He doesn't rack up goals and assists, but he really was, in my opinion, one of the heartbeats of that Real Madrid team, and absolutely crucial to them winning all those Champions Leagues that he was so integral to. He really was a joy to watch. Just the way that he could control a game, he could unlock a defense with a pass, and yeah, he really was just a phenomenal player. And I mean, he will be playing a Champions League final in 6 days' time. I'm honestly rooting for Borussia Dortmund. I love Marco Reus, but regardless, he could be bowing out with an additional Champions League as well as a European Championship. And yeah, just what a player. And I hope that now he will finally get his due after his career is said and done. I think that we'll look back on him very fondly, and I think that the game will definitely miss him. But that is your first ever Maple Footy news recap, and I do hope you enjoyed. It was a bit shorter than the first episode, so thank you for sticking around and listening if you did. And you can find me on Instagram at @officialsamlittle. You can find me through all my other socials, through my link tree on there. But yeah, stick around. There's going to be more episodes dropping in the very near future, and I just can't wait. This is really exciting. These first few episodes have been a whole ton of fun to do. I hope that you've had fun listening and you found them entertaining, and maybe found some great insight, maybe. Who knows? If you did, I'm really glad. And if you didn't, tell me about it. What can we improve on? But anyways, I'll see you guys around. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
And that was your Maple Footy podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates at @officialsamlittle on Instagram, where I am most active. And until next time, live, laugh, little.